my role has been changing through COVID-19. I used to work for St. Patrick's Cathedral and unfortunately was laid off, but I was taken on quite quickly by the IVEAGH Trust, who we had partnered with for the Critical initiative, which supports women and children who are exiting domestic violence. Now, that was something that came about as a discussion with Edwina earlier. You mentioned that, and we launched it on the 3rd of June. And so many of you who are attending here this evening, and many more beyond, who have been supporting that since the 3rd of June, have enabled us to deliver thousands of packages. In fact, I think our last count is probably over the 2,050 mark now, and parcels worth no less than €50 per parcel to women and children who are residing within domestic abuse refuges and connected with those services, perhaps through outreach or otherwise. We have many partners in the community, and that includes obviously the IVEAGH Trust, St. Patrick's Cathedral, and Garda Síochána, particularly Sergeant Ian Lamb in Kevin Street, and the rest of the community policing team there, who assist with distribution on a weekly basis, sometimes several times a week. That has been incredibly moving, because I think it was one of they're calling it the shadow pandemic, which is a very apt name for something that is quite dark. And as we face into a time of what is for many of us a time of cheer, it's awful to think that families are still living in circumstances that are less than savoury. And it was one of the things that had emerged in the initial lockdown phase as something that was really difficult to engage with, but also something that people really had a desire to support and mitigate. And I think that has been incredibly successful to date. The feedback that we're getting is really positive, and that will be continuing, and we will have a second phase in the new year. But obviously the day-to-day needs, we will continue to meet those through this Christmas appeal. And the second piece of work then that I'll be focusing on is the IVEAGH Trust Men's Hostel. And I know Christian is going to oblige by looking after the tech side of things. And we're going to watch just an introductory video on that. It was founded in 1905 on the back of the IVEAGH Trust, which is 1890 was when that was founded. And it was Edward Cecil Guinness who had founded that organisation. And with himself and Lord Royton, who was his very good friend, they designed the men's hostel, which is the largest in the country, and we'll see that video now.
And let's just hope I'll be able to do this as smoothly as I did in the tech run.
We're working for a future where individuals and families have access to a home
that is affordable and part of
a successful,
sustainable community.
For those who need it the most, it is first and foremost a roof over their heads. So safety from the fact that they're in a safe place where they're being cared for, and secondly, safety in the sense that they don't have to worry about where they're going to sleep the next night.
This vast building houses 200 men. It needs a new roof, and we really need people's help to make that happen.
We'd like to get people that are down on their luck maybe in the hostel to get them back into society again.
I was actually walking, and I was homeless. Like, I was sleeping in the car park next door to my job. So I was talking to someone one day, and he says, "What about the IVEAGH?" I said, "Oh, the IVEAGH, I forgot all about it." So I was just passing here one day, and I dropped in. I said, "Any rooms are?" He said, "Yeah, something's coming up there." He said, "Give me a shout." On the Friday, I rang him. I said, "What's the crack?" He said, "Yeah, there's a room there if you want to come and have a gander." Nice, up, in, nice, that was it.
Staying here in the IVEAGH has provided me with the opportunity to go to college. I was in another hostel or other places, there's drinking, drugs, there's fights, there's arguments. You're not guaranteed a good night's sleep. I don't know if I would have made it through it.
It's very important, and a place like this stays open because it's run by the salt of the earth, for the salt of the earth.
We really need support financially for people, donations, hand in the pocket to try and get this huge project over the line.
I think that worked.
Thanks so much. It was grand. Thank you so much. That video actually hasn't been aired as yet. Now you can tell it wasn't made today, obviously, because clearly the weather was much nicer when that was made about a month ago. And I suppose it highlights really the difficulties that men often find themselves in. And whilst Critical addresses the needs of women and children, we're acutely aware that quite often are left out of the conversation about refuge and a place of safety. And there's often an assumption that it's okay to be in a transient hostel. The beauty of the Ivy Trust hostel is that it houses quite a large number of people. Ordinarily, you'd have 196 men resident each night. One of those beds would be an emergency bed each night. We've reduced the capacity due to COVID to 175, and they have a room of their own. So they have a key to their own door, but they have units where there are shared communal facilities, and they can have a meal in the dining area if they choose to have cooked meals provided for them, and they pay a nominal rent. So there's no getting out at 9 o'clock in the morning and not coming back until later in the day. So I just see a question popped up there. Critical still taking donations on Saturdays? We are, and that will continue up until the 24th of December, actually. So thank you for that question. In relation to the men in the hostel and what they might need or require or desire, I think grooming kits would be most appropriate. You know, really nice razors, aftershave, shaving foam, the kind of things that you would give to a brother, a father, an uncle, someone that you really care about. And I suppose when we're giving things to people, we consider the individual that we're receiving. And so if it was our sister or our brother or our father or our mother, what would we like them to receive and what condition would we like to find it in? So new items, obviously we can't give secondhand razors to anybody, and, you know, pack them with care, and your intention comes in behind that, and that's felt by the recipients when they receive those items. And one of the beautiful things that came out of Critical was the letters of hope and courage and the response that we had from recipients due to those. So if you'd like to put in a small note, an anonymized note for the recipient of whatever it is you choose to give, I think that would be a beautiful idea, and it would personalize it. And we'd ask you not to put in your contact details unless it's on a separate piece of paper, which I know you'll be told more about later on. But as a personalised note for the person who's going to receive your gift, I think it would be a nice way for them to feel that somebody has cared enough to pack those items for them. And I think to really connect with the fact that we never know what we're born into. We don't really understand why people end up in the circumstances they're in. They don't necessarily choose to experience difficulties. I don't think any of us would. So it's lovely to be able to realise that people care enough to try and make a difference. And I think, again, this project and working with Dublin City Volunteer cohort, the wider cohort, really enables people to make a difference and in every way. And just to add to Edwina earlier on, I brought my Christmas jumper as well. So I brought the Christmas pudding this evening for the cheer. And I suppose, again, I have a little thing about Christmas, and I suppose my dad would have called it rent-a-crowd season, that people only prickle their conscience at Christmas. But I think we've been working so hard, all of us together, all through this year in particular, because of the pandemic. The beauty of Christmas is that we try and make it a little bit brighter in a very dark year. Thank you all for that.